Hi everyone, it's Olga Olga Zar from SEO Sly. Welcome to SEO Podcast by SEO Sly. So today I have a very, very special guest. It's Myriam. Hi Myriam, how are you doing?
Bonjour, I'm doing great and I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, I am so excited to have you here as well. So if there is someone in the audience who doesn't know you, which I don't think is the case, but if there is, can you briefly introduce yourself? You are
Oh,
such a star. You have become so popular recently.
it,
Yeah.
it's been it's been a wild ride, and if you don't know me, don't feel bad. I'm excited to introduce myself. I'm Myriam. I co-founded the agency Pragm, and we specialize in SEO training. So this is something that we have in common with Olga. However, you can find me mainly between Europe and Canada. I used to be Canada-based, and I'm moving back to the old world.
Yeah. So where are you based now?
Let's call it a digital nomad with a mortgage situation. So I'm
Okay.
currently in Italy, but soon I'll be in Portugal, and next step, maybe
I
Austria. We'll
see.
see.
Oh, okay. That sounds fun. And can you tell me more about your experience? Where did you start with SEO? What year? Like, how did this path started for you?
I think I'm going to set the mood by saying when I first got started, people used to copy, paste, and steal content from websites and still rank with the content. So that was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I, this was my first, this comment is based on my first SEO job, but I got started with SEO way before this. So when I started building my first websites, late 90s,
Oh,
yes, I was 9 years old and I had an internet connection, Olga. What was I
yeah.
going to do? Obviously,
Yeah.
create a website.
I think I was maybe not, maybe nine as well. I don't remember, but yeah. But I created my first site in, I think, 2000. So, yeah.
Yes, and remember the tables? Like I had to deal with tables,
Uh-huh.
and it was
Notepad.
intense. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
those were the times. Yeah. So, what sites were you creating at the beginning?
I was creating a website because obviously, as a 9-year-old, I was the ultimate expert on South Park, the cartoon, and I had to
Uh-huh.
let everyone know about South Park, obviously. So, yes, I decided to create a website and I was very unhappy because I couldn't find it on the first search engines that were out there because Google was not always out there, huh? And I couldn't find things because back in those days, if you were a child on the internet, you could type anything in the search bar and the results would always be porn. All of them. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter if
I
it was
remember.
washing machine. Yes. Yes. So I was looking at this going, but this is wrong. This is so wrong. I want my website. Like I wasn't even bothered by the naked ladies. I was like, I want my website on there. Why isn't it there? And
Yeah.
then I realized it was a job.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay. And
I
how did this site like evolve?
Oh, it devolved. It didn't
Oh,
evolve. It devolved.
okay.
Like it just I tried more and more things that were interesting in terms of web stuff, but my South Park content was just not up to snuff. I was just having fun
Sure.
with it.
Yeah.
So very, very quickly, I realized that this is a genuine job. So I'm going to school for a diploma where I'm going to have a hard time finding a job. And here is this thing that I do well that people are willing to pay me for.
Oh, so
Very
you very
easy
quickly
choice.
connected the dots.
Back when I was young, the unemployment rate for young people in France, because I'm originally from France, was 25%, meaning that if you had dinner with three other friends, the four of you, there would be one who wouldn't have a job, even with high diplomas. So obviously, SEO was the right way to go. Like it was
Oh,
non-negotiable for me.
that's nice, but it's very like that you were able to realize that back then. I realized that only I think in 2010, around that time. Even though I was building sites, I even remember the times of Alta Vista. But yeah, it was like only until this time when I thought, oh, maybe this is something that I can actually be doing for life, or at least try doing that.
Well, it was a different time as well. I didn't want to code. I didn't want to build websites. I
Uh-huh.
didn't want to get paid for this. I came from a content background, which is very unusual because if we're talking together, is that we exchange a bit on technical SEO, and I'm in Quebec, Canada. I'm known as a technical SEO, so that's a very interesting thing for me. I went from content and promotion to technical stuff because everybody could copy paste my content. So no matter how good it was, people were going to take it. And my bosses didn't see the point of paying someone like me because they didn't even understand. Yes, you do need the keywords in there. Like I worked way back in the day with the Virgin Megastores, and I remember writing certain things to help them get started, and they removed every single keyword from my copy, every single one.
Oh,
And I had to tell them politely, every single word that I put in bold, you're not allowed to remove. You can touch everything else, but you don't touch those words. And I wasn't considered to be very nice. And I decided I didn't want to be very nice to clients who removed all my hard work. So I decided to start fixing other problems. And it was easy. I mean, I had built websites.
yeah.
Technical SEO it is then. Like, let's go. It's not that hard for me. And that's how I pivoted.
Okay, so you were like for all these years, you were like a freelancer, or did you have like an agency job, an in-house job, or just freelancing?
The answer is yes to all three.
Okay.
So let me explain how. I worked in agencies. So this was very interesting. And I worked in different types of agencies as well. And then I moved on to development centers that had agencies, but I was usually seated with developers working on this because you had
Mhm.
maybe one UX, one designer department, you have the QA department, but the rest, while the client is giving the content, the client is designing, all the assets except
Mhm.
the website. So we are a technical shop. We are a development center. We like to pretend we are an agency, but we're not. And so I evolved in many, many technical work environments. And then I decided, well, this is nice, but time for me to get started on promotion. They're never going to promote me. So that's something we have to talk about because if you get really, really good at your job as an SEO, you don't necessarily get promoted to something because in many companies, there's no lead SEO, there's no chief SEO. You happen to be very often the only one. And if there is more than one SEO, usually, like in those days, it was tied to a boss that was handling analytics and other things, and you just all are part of the team. Now things are changing quite a bit, but back then I went, okay, I'm never going to have a promotion. I asked you to manage people, and you keep telling me that I'm too good at my job and that you can't replace me easily. So I'm going to replace myself and force you to make a choice. I'm moving on to another job. So I went in house and I
Mhm.
operated in house for a few different types of companies. So I worked in the financial sector, like with suits. If you came to the job with black jeans, they would tell you, "Oh, is it your day off? Are you visiting colleagues?" And you're like, "No."
Oh.
Yes, you were not allowed to wear jeans at all. Like you had to pay for the privilege to wear them on Fridays.
Oh.
Um, very, very corporate. And these people didn't necessarily understand SEO, but they paid a lot of SEO agencies to do things. So I had to work in-house, but also with agencies for whom I was a client. So that was very strange for them because a lot of agencies are not used to having someone who has deep knowledge of what they do and who's able to go, this ain't right. Please do it again. I know why. Let me explain. So this was interesting.
Uh-huh.
And then obviously the financial sector is not for me. So I moved on in-house to leading teams that were handling more cloud computing and hosting. So this was super fun because
Mm.
it's everything you want as an SEO, as a technical SEO. You're like, the server problems, I shall not have them now. Surprise, I still had them.
Yeah. Okay,
So
so And
And
after
then
that?
I have a funny story. I ended up an accidental freelancer. This was never my plan. I
Uh-huh.
was a director of marketing in back in Europe. A big startup came to poach me, and it was not necessarily a fit for me. It was a very interesting company in the sense that their hiring practices were conceptual and not people were not happy, and I wasn't happy. So I moved on, and I didn't have a plan. I'm the woman with a plan. So this time I just said, okay, I'm on my couch. What do I do? And a friend of mine called me and I was like, I'm on my couch. What do I do? And he's like, oh, what I am hearing is that you are officially a consultant and you work for yourself. And I'm like, I do. And he's like, absolutely, you do.
Oh,
And he ended up being my first client.
okay.
And this is relevant, Olga. You'll see why. The first person I started working with as a freelancer for whose team I operated was Martin Split in his old life.
Oh, oh, that's a nice story. Yeah. So what year was
So,
it?
I think it was like 2016 when I got
Mm-hmm.
started freelancing. So it's been quite a few years. Like it's been six
Yeah.
years. And I thought I would do this temporarily until I found the perfect job for me. Turns out
Uh-huh.
it was the perfect job for me.
Yeah. I have like the exactly the same like feelings. Yeah.
So
I also had a few different jobs, but only after I managed to become a totally freelancer can I say that this is my my perfect job.
yes, and it's not always perfect. There's always some stuff that nobody
Yeah.
tells you about it being a freelancer, but I mean, I'm talking to you from Italy, and I know you're talking to me from your brand new beautiful house, so things are working well.
Yeah, it's kind of okay. I'm quite happy. And your company, when was it like founded? Because you run your company with your husband, am I correct?
Yes, so this is also something we have in common together, and
Yeah.
it's really nice because it's rather unusual, but it works. So, just like you, we are a husband and wife team. We operate together under the same company name. So, a few years ago, I think it was 2018, maybe, or 2007, 2018. No, probably around there. Okay. My husband saw that I was very stressed out. In his agency, he was in a big e-commerce agency. He was super stressed out. So I tried to figure out why I was stressed out. I knew why he was. He was overworked. Too many clients, too many deadlines. We knew this. But for me, it turned out that I had enough work for two people. That's what we realized. That's why I was stressed.
Uh-huh.
So we decided, I looked at him and I went, the solution for me is for you to join because you know how I work. You can work independently. I don't have to train you. I don't have to explain anything. You are ready as well. Let's go. So we decided to create our company, and Pragm stands for pragmatic because our name got rejected by the Quebec office. In Quebec, you must use a word for your company that is either a made-up word or
Oh,
a French word. You can't have an English word, and we wanted to be called something else. So we had 7 minutes to come up with a name, and we decided to cut pragmatic in two. And it was the worst decision I ever made because
oh,
nobody can pronounce it. Nobody knows why we're named this. It's funny now. Like I love it because I'm like pragm, like for pragmatic. It's shorter. That's it.
it's obvious.
So
Yeah, so it looks like your story is very, very similar to mine, like really.
so
Yeah.
when did your partner join you?
So he started helping me around 2 years ago, I think, and like he has been like helping me like almost full time for I would say half a year. I think my pigeon is going to come here in just a second.
Yes, I'm excited.
Yeah, looks like he's going to come. I forgot about him. If he misbehaves, I will get rid of him in just a second.
I'm a fan of the pigeon. I love Gérard.
So what did I want to ask you? What's the main thing you do in your SEO, in your agency, in your company? So this is SEO training, or what else do you do?
So it's very interesting because we operate independently, Augusta and I. We have some common clients that we will do audits for, that we will do strategies for, or guide them. So not only do we come in for training, but we can also do the work alongside the team to get them started. However, and this is something I have to talk about because when you train people, you show the best, but SEO sometimes can feel a bit repetitive after so many years of doing it. I've been doing this for 15 years. So
Yeah.
he's been doing it for a while and he told me, listen, I don't want to do keyword research anymore. I just want to go into analytics a little bit. Like, let me go. I'm like, I'm letting you go, like, have fun. I want to get back into the technical end of things. So that's why I got started with more and more audits on the side beyond training, so I can always put my hands in it. So we have fun, like we get to guide people like this, but we also have a core, like 70% of what we do, 70 to 80% really, is training. So there's quite a few agencies that, if you're in Canada or if you're in some parts of the Benelux, you've probably heard of them. I train them. And I'm a white label type of person, so I'm not going to put the agency name out there. I'm not going to say what I did. Like, my end game is to help
Uh-huh.
level up teams. And here's why it works. We know that in agencies, you will last a year to a year and a half on average if you are an SEO. So this means that agencies have a tendency to have a high turnover rate and they don't always have the luxury of hiring people who are at least proficient, so 3 to 5 years of experience and can handle things. Very often they will end up with a lot of juniors and a lot of work for them to do, and the juniors are not organized. They have some gaps in their knowledge. So I've had the privilege of training certain teams over and over again because those agencies trust me to always bring the latest things that they should know. So
Uh-huh.
yes, you recycle the training. Oh, Gérard is here.
I will have
So
to just get rid of him in just a second.
he 70 to 80% of what I do is training folks to, do SEO. So what's interesting about this is that it leaves me enough time to also offer different services where I can do the audits to help you out. I can help you get started. I can train your team and do the audits and make sure they get implemented. So it's really nice to finally be able to lead folks to success. Why? Because in agencies, very often you get hired to do the redesign. You get hired to do
Yeah.
this one campaign. You don't necessarily help the people inside make sure that your work continues to grow, continues to pay dividends because it's maintained. So I get to do this and I love it. And, I get to train agencies as well. So there's some agencies in some parts of the world. You may know them, but you don't know that I have trained them. And some of them, I trained them multiple times. The
Oh,
reason is, well, you've been in agencies too, right?
yeah.
So you know that folks come and go quite often. Like, there's
Yeah,
a high
yeah.
turnover
Very,
rate.
very often, especially in the one I worked, it was like changing almost every day because there were
If
like
it's
a ton of SEOs. Yeah.
if it's changing almost every day, I will just say this, it may also be a high stress environment you may not want to remain in for very long. I'm just going to put that out there because there's a reason folks leave fast.
Yeah. People
So
come and go. Yeah.
yes, because it's a fluid industry. You can level up so fast and learn so many things within, a few months that of course other companies want to hire you. So what do these agencies do? Well, some of them, they just trust me every year to come back and train their teams because they know that they will have a batch of new juniors and they may not have people inside that are available. That doesn't mean these people don't exist. It means that, the team lead is probably either on a big project or, handling so many things that they cannot take time to have non-billable hours training the team internally. And these agencies, they do get a bit of a tax break paying for training as well. So this is a perfect setup for me. This is how I operate.
Yeah. At some point, I was this kind of an SEO trainer at the agency because I was practically the only person working remotely. I was like working a little bit differently than other people. And at some point, I was this person who is like checking what's going on, checking the latest tools. And once a month, once a week, I was like doing this SEO training for new people, for old people. So I kind of know how it is. But do you also do like one-to-one, like mentorships?
Yes.
Or is it like
So
mostly agencies or
no, no. So I have currently a one-on-one mentorship that I have with a long-standing client of mine, and basically she became director of marketing. She has a team under
oh,
her, and we continue to exchange on the strategies. And it's really nice because I get a higher view beyond SEO, beyond what's going on there, and we make sure that, for example, I trained their PPC specialist as well.
oh,
So we that there's a synergy between SEO and PPC for this. So yes, I know it feels so nice, right? You get to see like these things work in concert instead of fighting against each other, and it's awesome. And it's also very interesting because you get to talk about things that you have experienced a little bit in an agency, but that you don't necessarily always experience at your level, depending on where you are in house. So that you have to create budgets and you have to fight for these budgets. And it's complicated when you need to cut something. And very often SEO gets cut quite a bit
yeah,
because with PPC, you see how much you put in, you see how much you get out. With SEO, you don't know your pain until you stop doing it.
yeah,
So
exactly.
So it's been interesting, and I've learned a lot about communicating these elements in a variety of environments. So B2B high tech, like B2B construction, for example, or e-commerce, and it's it's kind of awesome.
Yeah, cool. And do you also do, for example, affiliate marketing?
So affiliate marketing is something that I don't like to get into, and there's two reasons for that.
Tell me.
Number one, there's a cultural reason. Like French folks don't tend to like affiliates.
Uh-huh.
It's not seen well. So I even worked with French
Okay.
companies and being asked, "Do you have an affiliate program?" And they're like, "It's really not us. Can we not do that? If you like the product, recommend it. But if you want to recommend it just because there's an affiliate, we don't want that." And it's something that it was very difficult for me moving to North America. I would recommend agencies to some of my clients, and the agencies would send me a check when the contract was signed. And I'm like, what is this? And they're like, oh, we have like a pay structure. And I'm like, I don't feel comfortable. And then I had people going, I'm gonna bring you a lot of work, so can I have like a cut on what you make? And I'm like, yo,
Uh-huh.
I make money on my own. I don't need you. Like, get in line with everyone that wants to work with me. I don't need an affiliate. I'm good. So you see that mentality? That's why affiliate doesn't necessarily speak to me. And on top of this, I have seen so much crappy content put out there just
Yeah,
because of affiliates that I went, you know what? I get to choose who I work with, and this is not one of these things because there's something I didn't quite tell you, and it's something important.
tell
When I
me.
got started in SEO, I was a black hat,
Oh,
not
so
by
what
choice.
are some of the things you were doing?
So, I was paid to test all the spinning tools because back in
Oh,
the day before GPT-3, you actually had to set up spinning tools that would
yeah.
create like 10 pieces of content that were like this different by percentage to the other thing that you had created because
Yeah,
you
my
were
husband
submitting.
used to do a lot of that.
Yes. Yes, and like you realize that what you're doing is producing crap content, but you also are kind of proud because yeah, that those regular expressions to code that thing, like you're like, yes, this is the option and this can happen. And
It's
like so
and
it's
it's
a visual.
ranking.
Yes, yes, and you're like, okay, well, there's this press release that I can submit to a directory, and I know this sounds horrible today. It sounded just as bad back then, but back then everyone was doing it. So,
Yeah, exactly.
and when when I got to a comfortable financial place, I promised myself that, hey, I'm never going back to that. I don't feel like this is the right way to do SEO. From a technical standpoint, there were so many fun things you could do with JavaScript. There were so many things you could do with content generation, but it didn't feel comfortable to me and it didn't feel sustainable. I was like, okay, so this ranks. We're at a race to the bottom of producing crap.
Yeah.
And
It's working now, but it may not be working like tomorrow. And yeah, where's the
absolutely.
value?
And so I love the fact that I chose very early on to have certain standards and well, some ethics, but that were my own. Just me as a customer, I wouldn't enjoy this. So this led me to have a really, really nice career because I got to choose who I was working with after that. Like it was automatic for me. I would never ever take an SEO job saying, well, it will allow me to pay the bills. No, I always loved the challenge. I always asked myself, how is this going to help my career? Like, how is this going to help me get to wherever else I want to go? Like, how some people, they're just happy to do SEO and they don't necessarily evolve and they stay like in
Yeah,
that one in-house client. Yeah, I'm not that person.
me too. So another similarity
I
between us.
think so.
Yeah, yeah. And can you like share some career tips? Because I'm pretty sure like career productivity, like everything around that, I'm pretty sure you have ton of them to share.
I have a ton of them, but if I were to talk about real tips for juniors and intermediates and senior folks who are wondering what's going on, I first must ask you, should I censor myself or can I swear?
You can swear.
Okay. So
Totally.
if if you are a woman in SEO and you feel like you have imposter syndrome, or you don't call it that because you genuinely think that people who are loud and use a lot of words you may not have heard about are better than you, um, no, no, none of that. Okay. Number one, my first rule is lie, bitch, lie. Because very often, the one person you're lying to is yourself. Everyone else sees that you are competent, everyone else sees that you're doing a good job. Okay. So that's the first tip. And I learned that
Like
because
it.
I felt, no, because I felt so unprepared and like I didn't know enough things and I kept getting more and more and more technical. And then one day I looked up and I realized I was terrifying developers with my knowledge. And that's when I realized I'm done with other SEOs making me feel bad. Like I'm good. I'm gosh darn good. So that's the first tip. The second one, and like I said, this is me giving tips. I am not an authority on anything. I am not your mom. I'm not your teacher. I'm not part of the SEO union. There is no union, but there should be. So
Okay.
the other thing is your employers may not invest in you. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't invest in yourself. Okay, so what does this look like concretely? Well, for the bosses who do pay for Olga's services, my services, like that's super nice. For those of them who even buy, like, there's a great Udemy course to learn SEO by Mark from the Candor agency. It's super affordable, so go for it. All I'm trying to say is if you're not even allowed to buy a Udemy course to do on your own time, your employer is not investing in you and your knowledge. Like you're just here to fill a need and that's it, and you will get cycled out. When you burn out, they're not there to hold your hand. So please invest in your own career, invest in your own knowledge, never ever stay static. So, what I have as a habit, and that's just the bare minimum, okay? What I have as a habit when I used to work in house or at an agency is you take at least 1 hour a week to learn something important. You don't feel bad. You don't do it on your own time late at night at home. This is not some volunteering stuff. This is not you changing the world. You take this on paid time, okay? And you learn something every week. And if people don't allow you to do this because they stop by your desk all the time, here's a little tip. I need you to go to, if you have two screens, it's better. If you have one screen, you have to be a bit fast with it.
I
But
have one
it,
very huge one.
oh, you may not be able to do this, but I had two screens back then. What I used
Uh-huh.
to do is in the screen that everybody saw, I would go on Wikipedia and I would do Control U or, like right click,
Mhm.
inspect, show the source code, show something that looks important. And that Wikipedia code, it looks scary to anyone who doesn't really code, and to developers it screams, leave me alone, I'm doing some coding stuff, I need to focus.
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden people leave you alone and you actually get to do stuff. So what I would do is load up the course in my ears and start taking notes. And that's how my hours was spent in peace. And people kept telling me, wow, you've been working on a lot of code lately. Like every Friday I see you. I'm like, mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a very similar thing I've been doing when I was at the agency. I was like I kept having my headphones because without them, like I was hearing people talk. And yeah, I had one thing on one screen and the other. Yeah, usually Google stuff. Yeah.
Yes. And I have a third tip that I wish I knew a long, long time ago. You need to find your tribe. So the SEO community attracts really nice folks and some not so nice folks. Okay. And when I'm talking about not so nice folks, it's on different levels. So you have to find people that are willing to warn you, hey, maybe if you go to a conference, make sure you never stay alone with this one person. They will ask you to go back to their hotel room and they don't take no for an answer. So this is important.
Uh-huh.
Like if you're young, you have to find people that will help you care for yourself. The other element is you have to find your tribe of people who think like you. Not everyone does SEO the way you do. Not everyone thinks that the way you do SEO is right. People tend to fight each other over this, which I find a bit ridiculous, but to each his own, their own, her own. But you need to find people that you trust and that you can always exchange with. Because I know, for example, if I'm going to have some weird JavaScript issue that I probably haven't heard about, I have 5 people that pop up right away in my head that I can ask, including Olga. So this makes you feel less alone. Like you don't
Yeah.
feel like you suck. You get to exchange with other people. And for example, most people don't know this, but they're starting to learn. I'm an image optimization nerd. Like I know this super well to the point that a company specialized in image optimization hired me a few years back. Okay. So I'm the type of person you'll go to if you have like specific image questions. I'm also the person that a few of my UX friends will go to going, hey, Google said this and we're not comfortable. Can you help? Like you find your spot where you get to exchange with people and you feel like you're part of something instead of trying to play catch up with all the cool new articles that are coming out nonstop that make you feel like you're not doing enough. If you have your little group, you'll be fine.
Okay. Okay. That's like three cool tips. What are some of the things you can like recommend not doing? Like, let's flip this.
Mm, mm. So
Avoiding, except for
I
knowing who to like be aware of when it comes to like SEO conferences.
no, I got you. I got you. So number one, please don't implement something that you don't fully understand just because you think it's gonna do something. No, you're not doing SEO like you're baking a cake out of a box, okay? You actually have to take the time to understand why putting the cake ingredients together and why heating them up at that temperature is going to get that chemical reaction that makes it fluffy. You have to know that gluten has a tendency to make stuff fluffy, okay? You have to know why there's an egg in there. In the box, it doesn't even matter. There's no need for an egg. They just want you to feel good about yourself that you baked. You know, this is important because if you don't know that most of the time the egg is not needed, you will think, oh, my recipe is going to be wasted. Same for SEO. No, you have to know how these things work. And it doesn't mean that you have to know perfectly how they work, but you have to have some understanding because if it messes up or if it works well, you won't be able to explain why.
Yeah.
And you'll keep living in fear. So don't do the, okay, well, Neil Patel said that it works, so I'm going to do it. No, if Neil Patel says that it works, it's most likely been overdone and you will be wondering why it worked for Neil but not for you. So please don't go blindly into implementing SEO stuff. Second thing you should not do not do all the things. Okay, do not attempt to do all the things. Do not feel bad if you haven't done all the things. SEO is all about prioritization. So you have to get an understanding, hey, if I do this, what's the likelihood that it's going to move the needle? How much money is it going to cost? Are they going to let me ask them to do something again? Because sometimes people give you a chance and then they don't give you a second one. So do
Yeah.
not get on people's nerves asking them to do everything for SEO. And then like I spent like an entire weekend doing this, and then you're like, okay, thanks. And then you do nothing with it. No, people will hate you.
Okay.
So there's two. And the third one would be get comfortable not using SEO tools sometimes. So let me explain. So the third tip I would say is don't rely on one SEO tool for the rest of your days. Try quite a few other ones out there to understand how they work, to understand what their differences are, and to find the perfect tech stack that works for you. Like, what do you use? What do you like? I always like to try new new stuff. So right now I'm excited because there's this tool that enables me to create mind maps, but mind maps based on keywords that have volume and difficulty in them, and I can organize them and show to my client why I'm organizing the site this way. Fun, awesome. So what I'm trying to say when I say, hey, don't do this, if you get too used to one tool and then you go into another agency or with another client and they don't use that, are you
Yeah.
going to force them to buy it?
Yeah, exactly.
So please don't rely on tools in a way that prohibits you from learning more from other ones.
Yeah. So don't just use Ahrefs, use SEMrush, use Systrix, no, all of them.
Not all of them, but like
Yeah.
yes, like there's some things that I prefer in Ahrefs. There's some things that I absolutely love in SEMrush that can't be
Yeah, me
replaced.
too.
There's some stuff, yeah, and there's some stuff that I absolutely adore in SERPstat. So I just have like a parentheses about this. Um, I love to explain to people that for me, SERPstat is fun, but not for the reason they think. Like the team is super nice, and I really appreciate them, and they're a great Ukrainian tool you can support, but they are pessimists at heart. So their search volumes are always lower than SEMrush. And
Uh-huh.
this makes me feel good because I'm like, you're not selling me a dream. I actually know the harsh realities. And if I do end up getting even more traffic than I planned with this, I ain't mad. Like I have my expectations set. Like this is good. This is helping me.
Yeah, okay. And how much do you learn on a weekly basis, and what resources do you use for learning new things?
So I learn every week. Every week I learn. So I'm in this unique position, and I always made sure I was in this unique position no matter what, even in other jobs. Let me explain why. As a trainer, if I have a team of developers that go, hey, we want you to give us a training that's custom and we use Nuxt.js, off I go into the rabbit hole of learning everything I didn't know about Nuxt.js. Doesn't matter. I put down what I already know. But since I'm teaching someone else, I better be the best one out there for this. So obviously I'm gonna learn. Like I'm not
Mhm.
a lazy trainer. Like I don't create decks that I'm gonna leave and tweak a little bit. I like to go down those rabbit holes like every week. I know that last week I was like, I read a 521 page guide on image optimization just because I wasn't sure that I knew
Oh,
everything I knew. Like I was like, I want to learn new things. So I learn constantly, and this is an amazing currency for me. People pay for this knowledge. People pay for this. Like I found a way to monetize me being interested in stuff. So it goes back to my advice, huh, Olga? Like everyone should spend at least 1 hour a week minimum learning something new if you want to thrive in SEO.
yeah. And how many hours is it for you? Like, of course, more or less. Two
So
hours
at the
every
beginning,
day.
yeah, like I have a Fiddly board that is like labeled and I have different feeds and everything is organized, and I'm
Oh,
really, really, yeah, I'm really hardcore about this. I'm very, very nerdy about it because I had like this fear that I wouldn't be good enough, so I wanted to be good at all the things. Now I'm getting better at it. So now I appreciate the fact that I can't know everything and that I don't have to stress out about it. Like I'm good. However, even if you do an audit, you will find this like one weird thing about Core Web Vitals, and you're like, this is not behaving properly, and you're gonna go down that rabbit hole. You are auditing, but you are also learning. So that's another opportunity, and I don't factor it in my learning phase. It's just part of my job.
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And can you share a few details about your auditing process? I'm very curious to learn.
Yes. So, somebody actually paid to sit next to me and watch me work, and it was the most uncomfortable experience of my
Oh,
life. Because
okay.
yeah, I saw you go. Because when you start an audit, the first thing I do is like look at the website. Like I'm just like taking a stroll. I look at stuff.
Yeah,
I
me too.
I
No.
yes, you can't explain this thing. It feels like we're kind of like Google bot. We have our own obscure way of doing things. Like we have internal algorithms that dictate this is the
Yeah,
step, this is the step. But if you have to explain it to someone, it will sound very good and very academic. But in your head, it's not. It's a very creative process. So one of the things I like to start doing is like site operator. So site
yeah,
colon and the domain, just to see, is that weird stuff? What have you been hiding?
yeah,
It's my, if I were to describe my auditing style, it would be like I come into your house, I shake your hand, and then I go open your fridge and I look behind the
yeah,
stuff to see what you left behind. And then like,
exactly.
yeah, and I'll go like in the bathroom, open the medicine cabinet going, this house is really clean, but what's going on? Yeah, this is the vibe. And I will always find weird stuff. So for me, what's important is making sure that yes, I satisfy the checklist that I have. Like there's an organization for me where I will explain like the basic stuff. Hey, what are the huge indexation hurdles, for example? Hey, next step, what is another big problem for you? Next step. And then I will go like content wise, what's happening, et cetera, et cetera. Like there's a process for each type of website too. But um, it's a mix of the checklist, so you make sure you don't lose anything. Knowing either the technology or the CMS. So, for example, if I have to do a Shopify audit, I will have a section in my audit that says like Shopify specific technical problems. It's not just regular technical
Mhm.
problems. It's like me telling you, I know Shopify does this, so I'm checking against this because this you need to fix. I already know. So I will do that. Or sometimes like when you go through this, so you have the checklist, you have your experience overlay, just because you know these things or you uncover them. And then there's the portion that is up to serendipity. Like you will just go down rabbit holes because you keep finding weird things that don't make sense. If it doesn't make sense, you have to follow it and figure out why it's happening. And this is usually like the toss up where like, and then there's this one more thing, and then there's this one more thing, and then
Yeah,
there's this one more thing. So I I think I described something in a very abstract manner, and somebody who's listening to this is probably going, you're not giving me the answer I want. I want like a clear step by step thing that I can do. And I'm so tired of people talking about abstract stuff. Okay, I get it. I used to be you. But trust me, we all have our own style. And if you're trying to follow someone else's audit checklist, and if you're trying to follow someone else's audit template, you won't feel comfortable 100%. You will feel the need to like change it a little bit, or
yeah,
like, this is not how I would do it. So, an SEO audit is part following best practices, part experience, like knowing what's gonna come up, and part let yourself explore the website. You're not on a timer per se. You are not, there's no right way to do this. There's trust your own process and figure out what works for you, what you like to show, and then improve this by checking out other people's stuff. Don't You start with a template that you're going to probably modify. It will become your own after a while, and then you'll build upon it and
yeah,
pick some stuff. Yeah, and it's important for me to say as well, the audit process, it changes and it evolves with time. So for example, the audits I used to do 10 years ago, 15 years ago don't look the same.
yeah,
And some clients, you really need to educate them. So you need to explain why this matters and like dress it up. If you're doing an audit for another SEO, you do none of that. Just
yeah,
go wrong. So that's different.
exactly.
And there's different flavors of audits too. So when you say, how do you do an audit? I want to tell you there's so many different audits that I do. Like, what about you? What kind of audits do you sell? Like, what do people buy?
So I mostly do in-depth, like entire site audit that contains technical stuff, content stuff, like everything there is to it, including backlinks. I also have like purely technical audit. I also do link audits, EAT audits. I think, sold a bunch of Google product reviews, audits. So yeah, a ton of possibilities. How
So
about you?
same thing, but I even get nerdier than this in the sense that there's some clients that already bought an audit, they implemented everything, and they're like, we don't know what else to do. I'm like, listen, if you want me to improve someone else's audit, I'm not going to do that. However, I will check it out, and either you redo a new audit with me, or I can tell you which bits are missing. So, for example, I'll do internal linking audits because sometimes
Yeah,
the
yeah.
client has done everything. Yeah, we agree. And I will do also core web vital deep dives. So that's very important for me to explain that. I will also check certain things. So, for example, when I do, there's a service I offer that's called a competitive benchmark, and it's everything you talked about. Like, we check backlinks, we check content, but it's presented in a way like, here's what your competition is doing with success. So instead of saying your competitor A has gotten this many links, I'm like, here are the trends and topics that work well with journalists based on your competitor. And by the way, most of their backlinks, 30% are like .edu. So that's a good example.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a tangent, but I had an e-commerce website where the competition had a lot of edu backlinks. Like, it was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So normally, what do you do? In a backlink audit, you're like, competitors have this content that is highly linked. They have a lot of .edu stuff. You should get edu stuff. That's it. You kind of stop there. Well, for me, I actually dug in and I was like, okay, so why? Like, I'm like, where is this coming from? And then they're like, student offers. I'm like, why would student offers point to an e-commerce store? I'm not a student.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't know. Huh? I clicked and I was like, oh, of course, I forgot. Students don't necessarily have all the means, but
Yeah.
companies love them and they give them discounts. I'm like, I write to the client, you need a student discount program. So, like, it's nice to do these things. So, like, you get to zoom in and sell your own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that I would add to all of these is you have reasons why you do audits and you have depth. So, for example, if I have a small website coming to me saying I need an audit, I'm like, you can't afford my price. I have a minimum price of full in-depth audits. However, if you allow me to do my own thing where I record myself for an hour or 30 minutes, depending, I don't guarantee you 1 hour or 30 minutes, it's between 30 minutes and 1 hour. I will go through your website and I will list all the things that I find important. And this is actionable and you can take it and go with it. And this is so much cheaper than, building the whole audit. You get to show the things, but you don't have to like copy paste in a
Yeah, yeah.
deck, etc. So this is also something that I call an ultralight audit. Like, you would not get this out of SEMrush. You would not get this out of a big agency because neither offer this. Mates, like the middle ground, let's have fun. So you can go in depth, say, hey, I can do a light, I can do medium, or I can do like full out. You give me 2 weeks, I go off in the desert and I come back with everything. Like, it depends. Oh, it depends. Oh.
It
And
it does.
and another thing I would recommend is that you also figure out the maturity of the client. So your audit is
Mhm.
not going to be the same for a company that is used to having yearly audits and a company that is doing this for the first time. So figure out where your client is at to, like, know what you keep, what you get out of that. And bottom line is there's lots of audits out there. There's lots of reasons why these audits are happening. If your client had a big traffic drop, does he care or does she care? Do they care about, oh, but your meta titles? No, there's like this huge gap in their traffic. They need to fix this. That's what they care about. Don't show them the whole rest. Their
Yeah.
focus, the audit should answer that question. Like, what happened? So figure out why they're asking you to do the audit and your methodology will evolve.
Yeah, exactly. Like one of the first things I always like the first section of my audit is always the purpose of this audit. Like,
Yes,
is it to
yes.
just like look for quick wins? Is it to just look for errors, or is it to assess a traffic drop, for example? So,
And this is something that most juniors are not going to understand. You need that slide. Here's why. This audit will travel within the company, and these people don't know why you were paid to do this. They don't know, or they don't remember, because 2 years later, somebody else inherits your audit and goes,
yeah,
"Huh, that's the work that's been done." So you need to future-proof your audit
yeah,
to bring maximum value.
yeah, 100%. So now a more personal question: what does your day look like? A normal
Oh,
day.
so this is an unusual one for me because it depends on where I am. Let me
Uh huh.
explain. A
Okay.
usual day when I'm mainly working with Canadian clients, my day starts at 2 in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's it. So in the morning, I will go live my life. I'm having lunch maybe outside with some friends. I will most likely watch a video from Brighton SEO's Vault, for example, if I want to learn something in SEO, like 20 minutes, and I'm like the queen of whatever. And then I get started with my real day. But my real day is almost nonstop.
Uh
It's
huh.
not a day like most people would have a day where you work and you have a few meetings during the day, maybe two or three max. No, my days are back to back because remember, I'm a trainer. So I will have some days where I'm booked the entire day teaching a team remotely. Some days it's two sessions, and maybe I have some consultation work where people just show up and they ask me questions. Like I don't even prepare anything, they just want my brain. That's it.
Uh huh.
And I don't have typical days like most people do because, yes, I work on different hours, I work on different things, but I do have to say that my most typical day is Mondays. I refuse meetings on Mondays
Uh
and I
huh.
empty my inbox. I just answer everyone on
Oh.
Mondays, like, yeah. So this is also important because otherwise you can't focus, right? Like if you're always checking your inbox, I see you agency people. I used to check my inbox like every 10 minutes and be stressed. No, I can't afford to do that anymore. I will answer throughout the week, but Monday is like the big get things off of my plate because the rest of the week I'm teaching. What about you? What's a
Yeah, that
typical day like?
so for me they are quite, I would say, similar, except for Mondays. On Mondays I do news, SEO news. I write the newsletter. If I have enough time, I also record the weekly recap of SEO news. So I try to learn on Mondays. The rest of the days I do some work on my website, some podcast and client work. And this is usually with a break in between for a workout. And I try to do only my own stuff on Saturdays, sometimes on Sundays, meaning I only learn, watch YouTube, watch some, listen to podcasts, read something, and do my podcast because it has been taking me so much time on YouTube. But sometimes I don't manage to do what I planned over the week, and I then have to do it on Saturday. And I always don't have time to answer emails. So this is like the biggest issue for me to catch up with
Same.
emails.
Same, and I wish I could not work on Saturday or Sunday, but I have to. My brain is like, now is the prime time for you to create your conference slides. Like, yes, let's go. And I'm like, no, brain, I would really enjoy looking at like dog videos on YouTube. And my brain is like, but no, we will be reading articles today. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
like yeah, when I finish like working, for example, it is Saturday afternoon, and then okay, so now it's time to watch like, for example, Google SEO office hours questions or something like that. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah, I totally can relate to that. And who do you think in the SEO community we should be following? Can you give some shout
Oh,
outs?
yes, I can actually. I'm normally I know that when I used to see these elements, like, you will watch a podcast, you will listen to a podcast, watch a webinar thing, and then people name other people, and you're like, oh, one day I wish I could be in that list. And then now I'm like, okay, who can I give some visibility to? So like I don't feel weird about it anymore. There's a fellow trainer that not everyone necessarily knows, and she's a riot, Billie Gina. So she works at Salt Agency. She's
Uh-huh.
training the teams there. She builds like
Uh-huh.
the the whole training portion of that company is handled by Billie.
Oh,
Um, yeah,
I heard
if you
about her.
really, oh, awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
She's really, really funny, and she's a fellow ADHD SEO.
Oh.
I would also recommend, well, there's actually quite a few folks, but um, if you want to know more about the editing side of SEO, George from Wix, so George Nguyen is the Wix editor for the Content Hub, and he does an amazing job. I would also recommend Gianna. So Gianna Treskwawa, oh, I can never pronounce their last name, and Brachetti. They are the DeepL SEO manager. And if you have any like heavy duty, big, hairy, complicated technical issues, Gianna is the one human you should turn
Okay.
to. They've probably seen it all. Um, and I should have come prepared. Okay, okay. Oh, but now I'm only talking about technical folks, but it makes sense right now. If you don't know Dave Smart, you absolutely should. You absolutely should. Dave is genuinely, you know, very smart, and he's a developer who decided to, thankfully, get on the SEO side, and he understands a lot of things about how bots behave. And last but not
Mhm.
least, this is an unusual one because I have to recommend someone from the Google team.
Sure.
And you would expect maybe Martin Split because JS SEO, but no, Lizzie Sassman has been saving our lives for the past 5, 6 years, improving the Google documentation. So if
Mhm.
you've ever felt like, ah, finally, the answer is there. Like, I'm so
Yeah.
glad that they updated. Yeah, this is Lizzie, Olga. Like, Lizzie is amazing, and she's on the Search Off the Record podcast, right? Like, I know that some folks are aware of her because of that, but no,
Yeah.
she's the person behind the documentation. And if you have a problem, do not hesitate to go at the bottom and
Yeah.
click feedback. If you fill out that form, Lizzie is the one reading you and making improvements. Okay, there's a genuine human being listening to you and wanting to improve things.
Yeah, that's a great recommendation. So I will link all those people. And fortunately, I knew all of them. So, so yeah. So any final thoughts, tips, insights?
Um, I have too many to count, and after a while, like this will happen to you as well. If you
Hmm.
find yourself starting to sound like me, or you, Olga, like there's so much I could be saying, then congratulations, you have reached the cruising altitude of SEO.
Okay, okay. I'll be waiting for that moment because I think I'm still not there yet, but yeah, maybe soon.
One day you will realize you've been there for a while.
Okay, okay. So, how do I pronounce your name correctly in French? It's not Miriam, but
Myriam Jessier.
Miriam.
Oui,
Miriam.
oui,
Okay, Miriam. So,
parfait.
yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for being here with me and sharing your knowledge. You know so much. You shared so many tips. I have learned a ton. So, thanks so much for being here with me.
I have one more thing to say on this podcast. Olga, I've been following you before I got to actually know you as a human being, and I've
Oh,
been lurking your site for quite a while and being envious of everything. So just so
oh,
you know, you may not feel like you're already there, but to me,
I don't.
you have been there for a while.
Oh, so thank you. Thank you. It's very, very nice to hear. So, so thanks everyone. And I hope to have a follow up with Miriam very soon. Thanks everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.